His Excellency Dr. Dadan Kusdiana, Director General of New and Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency and Conservation, Dr. Gigi Udi Atmo, Director of Energy Conservation from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources of Indonesia as host country, Dr. Nuki Agia Utama, the ACE Executive Director, heads of delegations of the ASEAN member states, heads of delegations of dialogue partners and international organizations, distinguished speakers and moderators, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning from me to introduce myself. My name is Shania Manalu from the ASEAN Center for Energy, and I will serve as your master today. It is an honor and privilege for me to be the master for the 27th Energy Efficiency and Conservation Apologies for the technical difficulties. Please kindly allow me to repeat. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Shania Manalu from the ASEAN Center for Energy, and I will serve as your MC for today. It is an honor and privilege for me to be the Master of Ceremony for the 27 Energy Efficiency and Conservation Subsector Network and its associated meetings, starting with the ASEAN Energy Efficiency Workshop to tap the potential of energy efficiency. Before we begin with our workshop, may I kindly invite all participants to rise for the national anthem, Indonesia Raya. Thank you very much. You may now all be seated. To formally open the workshop for today, may I kindly invite to the floor Dr. Dadan Kusdiana, the Director General of New and Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency and Conservation from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources Indonesia to deliver his respective opening remarks. Please, Dr. Dadan, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, very good morning. Honorable Dr. Nuki Agia Utama, my colleagues, Executive Director of ASEAN Center for Energy, Mr. Hoshino Masashi. I think he is on virtual, Director of Overseas Energy Infrastructure Office of METI Japan, the international partners from IEA, from Danish Energy Agency, from GIZ, from UNDP, and also from USAID. Mr. Henda Surya Kusuma, Chairman of Indonesia Data Center, thank you for the support. Dr. Pongpan Porasayan, Senior Professor Electrical Engineer, Department of Alternative Energy Development of Thailand. And also to my senior, Pak Sujono Respati from MASKE. MASKE is Energy Efficiency Association. My colleague, Pak Edi Susetio from Training and Education Center of the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. Delegates, head of delegates from ASEAN member states, distinguished speaker, moderator, and participants. Again, I would like to say good morning and warm greeting from Indonesia. Welcome to Serpong, Jakarta. Yeah. We are all now is in red. You see here. This is the official color of Indonesia chairmanship of ASEAN. The President of Jokowi just signed the organizing committee yesterday. So we start as the chairmanship of Indonesia for the ASEAN. I would like also to extend my sincere gratitude and appreciation to all speakers and participants. I am pleased to speak at this important event of ASEAN Energy Efficiency Workshop with the theme of tapping the potential of energy efficiency. As the energy sector focal point, the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources was the first to launch the ASEAN chairmanship in energy sector on 31st of March. So we are a little bit one day earlier before the my president signed the organizing committee. The energy efficiency and conservation is one of the 7 main pillars of energy cooperation in ASEAN region under the ASEAN Plan of Action for Energy Cooperation 2016 to 2025. As envisioned under ASEAN Plan of Action for Energy Cooperation, ASEAN countries commit to enhancing energy efficiency in the demand sector. The region has established 32 energy intensity reduction target by 2025. We are, Indonesia, put the target of 17% based on 2005 levels, of which we have achieved 23.8% in 2020, highlighting the need for further efforts to achieve the energy intensity reduction by 2025. For us, for Indonesia, we put target of 70% and we reached already 9%. To share the perspective of ASEAN member states, ASEAN dialogue partners on how to achieve the target, ASEAN Energy Efficiency and Conservation and Subsector Network will be held to act as a platform to update the energy efficiency cooperation and prioritize energy efficiency measures that will be taken into the concrete actions. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, industry accounts as the largest energy demand in the ASEAN region with 38.6% or equivalent to 146 million ton oil equivalent of ASEAN total energy consumption in 2020. So this is quite a very significant numbers. And for us, Indonesia, we are only using 28% of electricity. Other coming from the other form of the energy, and I think all of them coming from fossil on this regard. So if we put the program of energy efficiency on electricity, so we are only touching of that one-third of the energy use. We should implement energy efficiency measures in the energy sector, particularly in the energy-intensive industries such as cement, steel, chemical, and petrochemical. We are using for some industries, in particular for cement, we use already RDF coming from the waste cities and also from biomass. Implementation of energy management in the industrial sector can reduce energy consumption, but at least 5%. I think this number probably coming from Dr. Nuki on the ASEAN level. With low-cost investment and potentially can reduce more through further investment in energy efficiency. The fast growth of data center needs to be addressed by adopting green data center in the region through energy conservation, which consists of energy efficiency and also the supply of renewable energy. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, noting that transport is the second highest energy consuming sector across all ASEAN member countries, we need also to address the challenge in deploying policies and measures to pursue net zero emission in the ASEAN transport center. Among the policy are the adoption of fuel economy standards and also development of electric vehicle. ASEAN member states have announced their EV program and is starting to strengthen initiative to deploy the EV. Indonesia becoming a global hub for battery industry and EV manufacturing, since we are the first, we having resources of nickel in particular. We are the first among in the world. Indonesia aims for target of 2 million EV and also 13 million of electric motorcycle by 2030. This target is supported by recently launched policies that provide incentives to accelerate development of electric vehicle in the country. So we are following also other countries, in particular, we studied the implementation of Thailand in terms of incentive. By implementing these measures, Indonesia could reduce energy consumption by almost 30 million barrel oil equivalent and emission reduction of 7 million tons of CO2. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, in the building sector, the concept of net zero energy building has been promoted globally to support the achievement of net zero emission. One of the process is the implementation of building codes and also materials that are suitable for the tropical region by providing natural air circulation through ventilation and natural lighting to reduce energy demand. Energy efficiency in this building sector can further be enhanced through the implementation of minimum energy performance standard for various energy consumption appliances. Indonesia aims to further expand the application of these maps up to 11 appliances by 2030. We should, of course, work together to establish building codes and standards for tropical building in ASEAN. We also need to harmonize the implementation of minimum energy performance standard for appliances within the ASEAN region. So, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I hope this workshop will produce outcomes and recommendations that can be adopted in ASEAN 27 Energy Efficiency and Conservation Subsector Network on 6th of April 2023. This recommendation from this workshop is expected to advance the implementation of energy efficiency. So as Indonesia holds ASEAN chairmanship in 2023, we encourage you all to strengthen synergy in the ASEAN energy efficiency to produce concrete deliverables in supporting energy economic growth and also sustainable energy security. So thank you for your attention. ASEAN Matters, epicentrum of growth. Thank you.
you very much, His Excellency Dr. Dadan. Before we start this workshop, may I kindly invite back again Dr. Dadan, Dr. Gigi, Dr. Nuki, and the ASEAN Member States Head of Delegates to take a group photo on the stage. Yes, may I kindly repeat all ASEAN Member States Head of Delegates to please take a picture with Dr. Dadan, Dr. Gigi, and Dr. Nuki on the stage. May I kindly repeat for all ASEAN member states head of delegates to kindly go up the stage to take a picture with Dr. Dadan, Dr. Gigi, and Dr. Nuki. Thank you, and may I kindly request you to please remain on the stage, as now I will invite the speakers and moderators to join those on the stage for the second section of the group photo. May I kindly repeat for all moderators and speakers to please rise on the stage for the group photo session. Thank you. And for the final session, may I invite all participants to join? In the case that the stage does not fit, you can try going in the front of the stage and the floor at the front. Thank you very much, everyone. You may now all be seated, please. Thank you very much, everyone. To start with this workshop, Session 1 will be on the strategic role of energy efficiency in the ASEAN region. This session will be moderated by Mr. Sujono Respati, the chairman from the Indonesian Conservation and Energy Efficiency Society from MASKE. May I give over the floor to Mr. Sujono Respati.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, Pak Dadan Sudiana, is he still here? Pak Dadan? Okay. All distinguished guests and delegates from the ASEAN. Yes. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, all the delegates from the ASEAN region. Pak Dadan Sukustiana is here somewhere, and all the speakers and moderators for this session today. We would like to start this session with talking about the energy efficiency strategic position, strategic role in the decarbonizing the world. I would like to invite the speaker of today. This session is Ms. Natalie Kav. Please give an applause. Miss Natalie Kauf, please sit down. She is from the International Energy Agency in Paris. So she is specialized in analyzing and looking into the energy efficiency market and energy efficiency situation in Southeast Asia. So as we are going to listen from her about the what is the outlook on ASEAN energy efficiency market. Then the second is Mr. Septia Bundara Supendi. He's a manager of energy efficiency from ASEAN Center for Energy. Please pass. Mana tadi? Pak Septia? She was here. All right. Okay. So, and then Mr. Hoshino Masashi is going to attend this session on virtual because he is in Japan. So Mr. Hoshino Masashi is Director of Overseas Energy Infrastructure Office, METI, Japan. If I'm talking about METI, I have to say METI, Japan, because Indonesia we have also METI, but I have to establish METI, but it is a Society for Renewable Energy. Okay, please, Pak Septi. Welcome. So let me say something about energy efficiency first. Why we care about energy efficiency, because they say if we want to establish or we want to use energy, a new energy, whatever, for whatever reason, we need to think about what we have already. And what we have is we can create from what we have by reducing the consumption of energy, which is energy efficiency. People may confuse or may not understand about the difference between energy efficiency and energy conservation. Both are coming out into, well, resulting in reduction of consumption, but there are differences from energy efficiency and conservation. The energy efficiency always involves technology, while energy conservation, you don't have to, not at all, always use technology. That's the difference. And what people may not know about energy efficiency is that energy efficiency, as a matter of fact, is creating clean energy. Because they're saying that the cleanest energy of all is the energy that are not used. So energy efficiency is resulting in energy efficient. I use a formula, a very not formula, but definition of my energy efficiency is getting more with less. This is energy efficiency. So people have to differentiate between getting more with less and using less energy, which is conservation. So basically, it is clearly that energy efficiency is a very important element of decarbonizing our economy in our world. They say, IEA boss already said that energy efficiency is the first fuel, and that is true. Because if you, as I said just now, if we want to use renewable energy, but we have to use first the energy efficiency, because you have to make your home or your factory efficient first before deciding to use renewable energy, for example. So in my simple formula is energy efficiency, if you combine it with renewable energy, the combination will be truly clean energy. That is why I used to use the clean energy in those, referring to those elements. So now we are talking about ASEAN with more than 600 million people living in the ASEAN, and with more than 3 trillion US dollar economy, GDP. This is definitely very important region of the world. It's going to be and still being the hotspot of economic growth in the world. So the role of energy efficiency is very, very important here. That is why we are talking about it now. This is in one of the related associated meetings from the what we call of EENC subsector network, and we are discussing now towards the event. So without further ado, I would like to invite the first speaker, Ms. Natalie Koff. Ms. Natalie Koff will speak about the renewable energy efficiencies outlook, market outlook in Southeast Asia. Please, Natalie, time is yours.
Hello, and my name is Natalie Kauf, and I'm the Southeast Asia Energy Efficiency Policy Analyst for the International Energy Agency. Can you hear me all right? Wonderful. So I had some slides. Are they able to be shared? Yep. Are there slides that can be shared? Wonderful. Thank you. So I'll just briefly explain the energy efficiency market outlook. If you could move to the first slide. Thank you. So this is the annual flagship publication on energy efficiency by the International Energy Agency. For those of you who don't know, the International Energy Agency is an international organization and specializes in analysis and cooperation, particularly on energy issues. This report that we have that came out at the end of 2022 is an overview of global trends on energy efficiency. We looked at policies and technologies, and we also had 2 points of special focus this year. One was on the energy crisis, and then the other one was a special focus on energy efficiency in the ASEAN region. It's a very important region for all of the reasons we've just mentioned, but it's also an opportunity for us today to delve a little bit deeper into some of the data on this region. So if we can move to the next slide. Wonderful. So it should be no surprise that the energy crisis was part of the framing of this year's energy efficiency market report. There were already some tensions brewing prior to the invasion of Ukraine in early 2022. And this ended up having sanctions and disruptions to the energy and broader economic markets ended up having a profound impact on the energy sector. Because of this, many governments were turning to energy efficiency to help meet short-term demand issues and to resolve some of the tensions within the energy crisis. Next slide. So in spite of price hikes, consumers were buffered by some of the effects of the energy crisis, partially because of short-term consumption subsidies, quite generous subsidies that were provided by many governments. This graph here shows measures announced by 134 countries in response to high energy prices in April 2022. Some of these were direct cash payments, and some were other kinds of incentives. Governments put in a large range of interventions, and in total, they allocated over $550 billion in temporary support for affordability over 2022. And this is set to increase substantially over the next couple of years. The IEA generally recommends phasing out energy subsidies, something which the government of Indonesia has announced that they will be doing as well, and focusing these subsidies targeting them on low-income households instead. Next slide. So one of the questions we looked at was 2022 a turning point for energy efficiency? We had some emerging signs we can see here that maybe it could be. We see that this is about primary energy intensity. So energy intensity, the primary indicator of energy efficiency that we use globally, how much energy is needed to produce 1 unit of GDP. So energy intensity improvements are expected to perform strongly in 2022 at about 2%. This follows 5 years of averaging around 1% improvements. And we're quite far off track of the 4% that's needed to meet net zero goals under the IEA's net zero emissions scenario. So promising signs of progress, but we're not quite there yet. Next slide. So looking at this, we came out with a few different, from the overall report, we came out with a few different key points. I'm not sure if you can see them there well on the slides, but I will go through them. Countries mobilized over 1 trillion USD in efficiency measures in crisis response packages, something we mentioned before. That's substantial money going into energy efficiency, and we saw it as a large opportunity for a lot of countries to invest in the energy efficiency measures needed for the energy transition. National plans with a major focus on efficiency were launched by 16 governments, and these represent over half of global energy use. In response to the energy crisis, there was also a global wave of energy awareness campaigns helping citizens to take action to reduce their own demand. So hopefully many of you have seen those in your countries as well. Digital demand response mechanisms such as phone apps or alerts helped to manage several major power supply emergencies, ultimately helping energy security, hopefully also helping consumers to better understand their energy demand. Incentives for heat pumps are currently available in countries covering half of global energy use in buildings. And thanks to strong consumer demand and government support, 1 in every 8 cars sold is now electric. Cooling efficiency policies have been implemented or are under development in all 10 ASEAN countries. And 31 emerging and developing economy governments are developing new building codes, bringing the total to 111 once enacted. And efficiency savings made since 2000 have saved IEA countries $680 billion in energy costs over this year alone. So some good signs of progress. Next slide. So this, I'm going to focus a little bit more on the ASEAN region for the next part of the presentation. The IEA has a strong collaboration with the ASEAN region and has for several years. In April 2022, we published 2 roadmaps in cooperation with ASEAN. So a few of you in the room probably worked on these. One is the roadmap towards sustainable and energy efficient space cooling, and the other is roadmap for energy efficient buildings and construction in ASEAN, 2 key priorities. And then in cooperation with Singapore, we launched 2 courses, interactive online training and a self-paced online course. And I'll also invite all of you to stay tuned for more updates. We will be partnering later in the year to host an energy efficiency policy training week in Jakarta, probably in October. Next slide. So energy demand has doubled over the last 20 years in ASEAN countries. This is, as we've mentioned, a region home to more than 660 million people, and energy demand has been growing by around 3% per year in the region. You can see it broken down there with quite a few countries that will be growing a lot, and it's moving to become one of the largest regional markets for goods and services in the world. Enhancing efficiency in these countries will help many development goals, not only for efficiency, but also access to clean energy and cooking, phasing out traditional biomass, and access to modern energy services such as cooling. Next slide. So part of the reason we focused on ASEAN was because of the growing demand. And I wanted to mention that to meet this demand, ASEAN has also set the target of achieving 23% renewable energy share in total primary energy supply and 35% share of renewable energy in installed power capacity by 2022. Also note that we recently released in March the electricity market report, so similar to the energy efficiency, the annual report for electricity markets. And in that, we had the updated estimate that for 2022, the electricity demand is increasing by 5.5% for the ASEAN region and on track to continue an impressive pace in the coming years. So next slide. Most ASEAN countries do have energy intensity below the world average. And intensity progress is slowing, except in Singapore, Thailand, and the Philippines. And here we can see the ASEAN average as well as the world average. But it is similar to global energy trends in energy intensity. Next slide. Here we see broken down by sector. So industry is the largest energy consumer in ASEAN, but also the hardest to abate. And so that's something where we will be looking for opportunities to look at how to really abate those energy consuming sectors in industry. In ASEAN, the building sector is the key to short-term energy efficiency opportunities, with appliances being one of the key areas as cooling demand grows. Next slide. So access to clean cooking has been rising rapidly in the region. Access to clean cooking technologies has quadrupled over the last 2 decades, reaching 70% of the population and more than 200 million people in the region. The World Bank values the negative impacts of health, gender equality, and environmental issues linked to the lack of universal access to clean cooking at $280 billion per year. It's also quite uneven across the region, as we can see here. And in the last couple of years, due to the COVID-19 and energy crises, 100 million more people may no longer be able to cook with clean fuels, and 70 million can no longer afford electricity. So while close to 87% of people living in ASEAN cities cook with modern and relatively clean technologies, this number barely exceeds 50% for rural populations. That means that without substantial policy interventions, the high share of biomass is expected to stay relatively steady until 2040. Slide. Access to modern appliances will be a key to the lifestyles of ASEAN countries, but will also be driving energy demand in the building sector. This has been a key focus for us, and one of the reasons why we're happy to see some of the progress on MEPS that was announced earlier today. Policy support for deploying more efficient air conditioners, as well as other measures such as using efficient fans and building envelope improvements and things like insulation can help ASEAN member states save 110 terawatt hours of electricity in 2040, cutting the projected space cooling energy use by over a third. Next slide. But what we found is, contrary to popular belief, energy efficient cooling doesn't need to be more expensive. So it's one of the fastest growing end uses in the region, with energy consumption expected to more than quadruple. Electricity demand for space cooling is projected to rise from 88 terawatt hours in 2019 to 314 by 2040. About 200 terawatt hours to come from residential buildings. Space cooling is also estimated to account for 30% of peak electricity demand in the region by 2040, up from 10% in 2017, and will require about 150 gigawatts of additional generated capacity to meet peak levels. So this new market data that we have from Thailand shows that efficiency and price don't necessarily have such a strong correlation, and this is helpful to promote the idea that energy efficient cooling doesn't need to be more expensive. Slide.
Excuse me, your time is 5 minutes more.
Yep, perfect. So we can see here that buildings themselves, looking at buildings themselves, energy savings of 20 to 70% after retrofits can be achieved, and commercial buildings will be key. This is market data from ASEAN showing the difference between energy use across different building types, which is consistent with that same building energy use around the world. Next slide. Finally, we look at the transport sector, which is key for the region. Energy efficiency and electrification are the two key aspects for the transport sector. And unfortunately, so far, while fuel economy standards are key to lowering those emissions in this sector and oil requirements, so far no ASEAN member countries have adopted fuel economy or CO2 emission standards for any modes of transport. In ASEAN, a priority will be the focus on 2- and 3-wheelers. And we are encouraged, though, to see some positive progress on this in terms of countries' ambitions to perhaps develop these fuel economy standards in the near future. Also strong potential for electrification. Thailand and Indonesia aim to become leaders in EV markets, something we also heard earlier today. And Thailand has announced plans to achieve 30% of domestic vehicle production to be zero-emission vehicles by 2030 and 100% new vehicle registrations to be zero-emission vehicles by 2035. And as of September 2022, Indonesia requires government offices to procure and use electric vehicles. So some more promising signs of progress. And the last slide. So to wrap up, I just wanted to also invite all of you to the annual global conference to reach out and let us know if you have interest to participate. Your governments will be welcome to join in the 8th annual global conference on energy efficiency, which will be in Paris in June. This builds on the 7th successful annual conference that was held in Denmark, which several of you may have attended last year. Let me know if you have any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie, for your presentation. And I agree with you that in ASEAN is going to be a hotspot in the growth of energy efficiency market. Especially, we have to say the residential building needs more attention because this is still growing, commensurate with the growth of the population. The transportation is certainly a very, very important factor. Thank you. I would like to invite the second speaker, this is Septiadi. And he is from the ASEAN Center for Energy, and he's responsible for energy efficiency efforts in ASEAN. Septiadi, time is yours.
Thank you so much, Pak John Raspati. I seek your permission earlier to stand by there because, as we know, our energy intensity is keep increasing. So does my eyes power. So I have problem to see the screen in front. So allow me to sit here to present my presentation. First of all, thank you so much for this opportunity. I think I'm very happy to see familiar faces after a long time doing like online meeting. So now we can see each other, especially the focal person from 10 ASEAN member states. So we can see each other. I think we would like to thank to Ministry of Energy of Indonesia for allowing us to see each other for this workshop. May I have my presentation, please? Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the ASEAN Center for Energy, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Septia. I'm currently program manager from ASKDB GCF program. I think I will present it in detail about this program for your information. Next slide, please. As we understand, from the ASEAN perspective, from the ASEAN Center for Energy, we represent 10 ASEAN member states' interests on energy sector. However, along the way, when we discuss with the member states, when we see the impact what we are doing so far in terms of activity, we need like innovative solution to move forwards. Yes, we represent 10 member states. However, we understand we need to make categorization to make the priority of the actions. Considering Indonesia as the largest economy from the 10 ASEAN member states, when we also develop our outlook, it's also quite crucial to provide support for Indonesia because it's affecting, I think everybody knows, the data and the result for the member states. On the other hand, we also focusing on several member states, for example, like member states who really enhance their prioritization for solar PV development and also for building and residential sector, so we can boost further the activities. So back again on the background, considering this factor or variable, in Indonesia as the largest economy, we noted from the last data from Bappenas, the country still has challenge. I think every country has a challenge, but in the case of Indonesia, has a challenge of GHG emission because the industry is growing. So we expect there is correlation or maybe alignment. When we improving our energy security, there is also consideration of environmental effect, as mentioned earlier by Dr. Dadan. From this consideration, we noted there is still a challenge from Indonesia's perspective. At the same time, the country need to boost the efforts to achieve the NDC. So this is something that quite crucial when we want to put alignment between energy and environmental. Next slide, please. In fact, internally in the country, there is already existing efforts from the authority, from the regulatory aspect, to support sustainable energy development, to boost environmental effect into the energy sector. One of them is from financial aspect, from the Authority of Financial Service or OJK, already released like regulation to support financial intermediaries to make a program to support energy efficiency or sustainable energy program or green projects towards innovative financial activities or program. Next slide, please. At the same time, also from the Ministry of Energy, I think since 2012 regulation, there is identification how the importance of reduction or energy intensity. This is in line with our regional efforts. I think everybody knows ASEAN Plan of Energy Cooperation or APAIC. We would like to reduce our energy intensity, focusing on several aspects or sectoral. For example, like for industrial sector, we want to boost energy managers, we want to improve the equipments. However, still a lot of things need to be done there because we want to see tangible result from this program. Next slide, please. Based on our discussion with our related stakeholders internally for Indonesia, we did a market assessment in 2020. We identified at least there are 3 critical challenges or barriers when we talk about industry energy efficiency efforts in Indonesia, particularly for industry sector. First, for financial barriers. One of the key aspects here regarding the understanding from financial intermediaries regarding energy efficiency efforts, the activities, what kind of equipments needed, and how they want to assess if there is like borrowers want to pursue like this kind of program. This also related with how it can make benefit for them, how they provide low interest rate while they can still see the opportunity of business here. I think this is the challenge that we have faced when we discuss with the related stakeholders. Second, regarding the regulatory challenge or barriers. We understand from the industrial condition, there is existing subsidized electricity. So I think it put the energy efficiency effort into the second priority for them. But I think we are improving. We are improving to make them aware of the importance, and especially how we want to make kind of strong efforts towards achievement of NDC after we face the G20. Now Indonesia is the chairmanship of ASEAN. I think more and more we realize the importance of sustainable energy development, especially on energy efficiency. And last one is about the demand side challenge. I think this is related with the business aspect. We noted like low demand for high energy efficient facilities due to low energy tariffs and so on and so forth. And this is need intensive discussion, not only from stakeholder, but integration with many stakeholders from energy aspect, environmental aspect, industry, and also a financial aspect. Next slide, please. That's the critical reason why we want to pursue this opportunity from Green Climate Fund. We collaborate with Korean Development Bank as accredited entity. We developed the proposal since 2019, and we received quite strong support from Ministry of Energy of Indonesia, also from the other member states. And we not only focusing on Indonesia, but we also want to put replication with ASEAN member states. So within the program, we put the replication component. So at the end, hopefully there is integration or synergy or discussion point when we hopefully able to achieve the best practice in Indonesia, so we can replicate to other country. With the notes from GCF, they also put program into the ASEAN member states country, and hopefully we can utilize and tap and make focus to other ASEAN member states in the future. So this
Excuse
is
me,
yes.
Pak Sip, we have to reduce the time from 20 minutes to 15 minutes because we have to finish at 10:30. So please
No problem.
accelerate your presentation.
We'll do.
Thank you very
I'll
much.
make it quick as
Right.
as best as
Thank
I
you
can.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
So basically, there are three components of this program. First, we would like to focus on financial aspect. Next slide, please. How we want to focus on financial aspect? By providing guarantee through financial institution through Korean Development Bank as a accredited entity. So there will be 100 million USD guarantee for financial intermediaries or financial institution or local banks to provide loan for industry player who would like to update or upgrade their or to join the energy efficiency program or activities. Next slide, please. And we have several criteria. For example, if you want to pursue the energy efficiency equipment, it's need to be 20% in terms of efficiency at least. So this is also in line with the prioritization of industry. For example, like the cement industry, food and beverage, industry that really quite energy intensive industry that exists for Indonesia. This guideline actually is still under discussion because according to period, this project actually hopefully will be commenced in June 2023 this year and will be end up in 2030. So we still have, we are in the preparation stage actually. So we are now welcoming any feedback or input from financial intermediaries, also from industrial players to set the guidelines, how this program can very beneficial, not only for financial intermediaries, but of course for industrial players. Next slide, please. And this is the early identification of the arrangement. KDB is accredited entity, will act as the lead of the arrangement and monitoring of this overall guarantee mechanism to provide the local institutions, bank institutions, while we identified several banks in Indonesia, of course, financial intermediaries for PTSMI, PTIF. We also quite close in discussion with UOB and CIMB Niaga. We also would like to welcome state-owned banks who would like to join this program. At the same time, we also have discussion with Korean-related banks like Wuri Bank, Shinhan Bank, and so on and so forth. Next slide, please. And the other component of this program actually regarding, next slide, please. About technical assistance on the risking mechanism and capacity building towards market readiness. So it will be handled or led by the ASEAN Center for Energy. Next slide, please. What we would like to achieve under this component, actually, we would like to introduce energy saving insurance specifically for Indonesia. We understand several discussions already existed by Ministry of Energy of Indonesia. With, for example, OECD program with BASE. We would like to continue that and have a tangible result. For example, how we want to produce the contractual for the energy efficiency project for Indonesia. We would like to collaborate with BASE, an expert from Switzerland, to provide the document. At the end, we are able to introduce the contract by considering the local regulation that already existed. Next slide, please. At the same time, we also would like to provide advisory service for the ESCOs to achieve better financing structures and obtain knowledge sharing from advanced institutions for the financial aspect. Next slide, please. At the same time, we would like to support in terms of the capacity development because as we identified earlier in terms of the barriers, there is a misunderstanding or maybe need more collaborative effort from related stakeholders towards this program success. So we would like to provide capacity building for financial institutions, for regulatory or authority, for also for the industrial players, and lastly, of course, to the ASEAN member states. Next slide, please. So this basically we would like to focus how we want to provide support for the financial intermediaries by establish a program implementation unit together with PTSMI and IF to support terms of pipeline development, investment portfolio, and monitoring and evaluation. Next slide, please. While for the industrial player, we would like to implement and hopefully we're able to achieve and obtain successful pilot project. So at the end, we're able to share this practice and make this as a benchmark for the arrangement within the financial institutions. Also for the purpose of, next slide please, replication for the ASEAN member states. Sorry, next slide please. While for regulatory aspect, we would like to support the ministry or related authority to narrow the energy efficiency information gap among the ministerial level by creating from group discussion, raise awareness of the need for EE promotion for the policymakers. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. What we hope actually by implement this program, of course, we hopefully back again to the first background, we would like to support for Indonesia to reduce the emission, while at the same time we increasing our energy security by applying energy efficiency for industry. Because as per our outlook data recently, at least we will grow 3.3% until 2050 in terms of industrial sector. So hopefully this program very useful for us to tackling the GIC emission. Slide please.
1.5 minutes.
We'll finish in a few minutes. And of course, to support the government to achieve the SDGs target. Next slide, please. And most importantly, I think it's quite hot topic, how this program able to provide recommendations towards the gender action plan. I think this is quite important when we relate this with how we want to grow and strengthen our economy to make utilize of all possible aspect of our gender aspect. So everybody can contribute, especially for the energy sector. This is what we hope under this program. Next slide, please. To summarize, we would like to ensure our role as a catalyst and provide innovative solution in all aspects, including for industry. We really thank for the strong support from related stakeholder on the success of this approval of this program. Moving forward, we are going to conduct interministerial or stakeholder discussion. We will seek further or continuous support from Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Environment, and most importantly, Ministry of Finance of Indonesia to collaborate to make success of this program. And also, we would like to invite related stakeholder to provide us feedback. So at the end, we're able to achieve and tackle the existing barriers on the ground. We understand a lot of existing program or innovative financial that already in the plans or already running. However, we want to make a collaborations. We don't want to make a standalone program, but we want to make a collaboration with everybody. So at the end, we're able to reduce energy intensity in the industrial sector. So it will provide really beneficial not only for Indonesia, but for the purpose replication for 10 ASEAN member states. Of course, at the end, we hope we're able to target another country outside of Indonesia in parallel or maybe towards the end of this program. So I think that's all for my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pak Septiadi. Excellent presentation. It's very interesting and very encouraging. presentation. I mean, encouraging plan. I mean, everybody knows that the finance is the most important challenge and the biggest challenge for energy efficiency efforts. I hope that it is going to be implemented because we have so many plans already set up in the past, but the result is not as much as we expect. So we hope that this plan of ACE is going to be implemented soon. Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite the last speaker, Honorable Mr. Hoshino Mayashi. He is Director of Overseas Energy Infrastructure Office, METI, Japan. He's going to present online. I would like to invite Masashi-san, please. Time is yours. You will. I'm sorry. We would like you to present in 15 minutes because we have curtailed our time for 5 minutes now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good morning, dear speakers and all guests and participants today. My name is Masashi Hoshino, Director for International Affairs Office at Energy Agency, METI. And it's my great pleasure to have this opportunity to join by online, but in such a timely and important workshop. Today I'm going to talk about Japan's efforts for promoting energy efficiency, especially in industrial and home and commercial sectors. So as we see, energy efficiency is becoming a higher priority area than before, as the recent global energy situation is in a difficult phase. And also, Japan has promoted energy efficiency for many years in terms of policy making, implementation of domestic measures and the rules, and also supporting programs that private sector can achieve carbon neutrality. So also international cooperation is very important, is also another key to accelerate challenges for decarbonization and also at the same time energy security and globally. So could you share my slides? Yes, next please. So today I'm going to introduce first overview of Japan's energy efficiency, and also for specific examples of concrete measures in Japan. I will explain top run program and also industrial energy efficiency benchmarking system. And finally, I will share with you today Asia Zero Emission Community, that called ASEC. That is a new platform for cooperating towards carbon neutrality in Asian regions. Next, please. So for us, I'm going to explain the Japan trends in energy consumption. Since the oil shock in 1970s, Japan has been making great efforts for energy efficiency. So the total energy consumption is currently 330 million kiloliter oil equivalent. That is almost same in 1970s and 1980s. The peak was already that was 2000 around 5. So and then the energy consumption has increased 1.2 times since 1970s. But when we look at the economic growth, that is just over 2.6 times. That means, especially industrial sector, we have been making great efforts in energy efficiency efforts in industrial sector. So next, please. So with this background, we think it's important to pursue both demand side management and also supply side measures. So Japan has already announced carbon neutrality by 2050. We will promote further energy efficiency and also measures to expand the introduction of non-fossil fuel energy, including renewable energy. So by promoting these two efforts, we will be less depending on fossil fuel energy and also remaining CO2 in the future will be further reduced by another technologies in the future, like CCS and DAX and BECS, etc. Next slide, please. So also Japan has also another target before 2050 carbon neutrality, that is around 46% GHG emissions reduction in 2030 from 2013 level, with continuous efforts towards even 50% reduction of GHG emissions. So Japan's goal is to achieve 62 million kiloliter energy saving by 2030 through all energy efficiency measures in various fields, including industries, home and commercial sectors, as well as transport sectors. Next, please. So I'm going to explain another examples of specific approaches, including the Top Runner program and also industrial energy efficiency benchmarking in Japan. Next, please. So in Japan, companies that produce or import of some home appliances and also equipment should achieve energy consumption efficiency criteria for each equipment. We have already 32 items, including automobiles, air conditioners, refrigerators, televisions, lights, which cover approximately 70% of household energy consumption. So top runners under the Top Runner program, we set some criteria by considering the highest energy efficiency products, and that's shown of product A in this chart, and the prospect of technological progress in the future. And then manufacturers and importers require that the weighted average energy consumption, energy efficiency of producing or shipping products should be less than the Top Runner energy efficiency criteria. So the target will be set 3 or 10 years after setting criteria. And for example, air conditioning system is improving around 30% improvement of energy efficiency for just 20 years. Next, please. So it's important also to share information to consumers that they can buy and encourage to support producers to manufacture and import of those kind of energy efficiency products. So the producers of equipment are required to display energy consumption efficiency and other related information, and also retailers of equipment and also building materials are necessary to provide information on energy efficiency, like these labels. So next, please. So that was the top line program explanation. But another Japan's approach is to promote industry's energy efficiency by this benchmark system. Japan has introduced the energy efficiency benchmark system first in industry sectors, and then we expanded to commercial sectors in later years. We set the level of energy consumption efficiency to evaluate by using a common benchmark in each sector, including major industries like steel, chemistry, and also cement and paper industries. And also we include and some commercial sectors like hotels, retail shops, and supermarkets. So now we have the many sectors, and those sectors have been gradually expanded, and now 70 sectors are covered currently in Japan under the benchmark system. Next, please. So every year, the government will evaluate the industries and commercial sectors' energy efficiency efforts under this benchmark system. So each companies are evaluated based on S, A, B, and C evaluation under this benchmark system. S is superior companies, and also A is average, and B is stagnant, and C is the poor evaluation. So the recent results shows that the percentage of each class was over 50%, and A is around 30%, and B is just 20%. Just the companies total number was over 11,000 companies at these recent years. So if the companies are selected S, the name of the companies is published on our government website, and also the companies are eligible to apply for energy efficiency subsidies further. So next, please. Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. So just I just want to skip this page. So next, please. Just finally, I just explaining Asia Zero Emission Community ASEAN platform. Next, please. Yes, Asia Zero Emission Committee (ASEC) is just aims for energy transitions based on each country's circumstances, and together with Asian countries. So ASEC is a platform to provide support from Japan, and also to promote policy coordination, including energy efficiency and introduction of renewable energy, and also any other energy transition technologies. We have 11 partner countries, including Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, and Brunei, and Australia. So next, please. So we have first ASEC minister meeting on 4th last month. So energy ministers from 11 partner countries gathered to discuss about the future cooperation in this many decarbonization technologies and also pursue energy transitions in the future. Next, please. So before the ASEC first ministerial, we also had ASEC public-private investment forum. In that, various initiatives are being discussed by ministers, also companies from 11 partner countries. So Japan will cooperate Asian countries for practical and various energy transitions in a lot of technology and areas, including energy efficiency and other decarbonization technologies. Next, please. Thank you very much. That is from my side. Thank you.
Sorry. I have to apologize on behalf of the committee that we cannot hold question and answer because we have to start the second session of this morning in about now. So we have started a little late, but I believe that the committee will make sure that everybody can download all the presentation that we have heard this morning. And once again, I apologize for this curtailing of this time. So I hope that these very important topics that we have heard today. Sorry? Well, maybe we can have one. That's I give the honor to Pak Kiki as director of our, and perhaps Pak Nuki wants to ask. Please, okay. But I hope that everybody will bear with us for another 5 minutes. Thank you very much. Pak Kiki, please. Oh, yeah.
At the beginning of this month, we attend the ASEC ministerial meeting in Japan and also a private private forum in Japan on ASEC ministerial meeting that encourage cooperation on one of the key pillars on the energy efficiency. So in line what our Director General has been mentioned during his remark, that we are looking for a concrete deliverables on these events. We would like to know, because Japan has been doing very good jobs in terms of improving energy efficiency with continuous GDP growth, whereas the demand growth is just almost half. So how can we proceed with that? Can we use the ASEC platform to looking for cooperation on the specific sectors? For example, in industry, with Japan show very excellent improvement on energy efficiency. And how can we move forward on that? Thank you.
So Musashi-san, please.
Yes, thank you very much for your great comment. So we are looking forward to having future discussion in especially with the partner countries and also private sectors, including, of course, energy efficiency technologies and rule making as well. So ASEC will promote discussions by holding ministerial meeting once a year, and also there will be some meeting under the ministerials several times per year. So we will discuss concrete discussions in the future, including energy efficiency. So by using Japan's many supports for those areas, including in terms of technologies and also financing, also human resource development as well. So also policy coordination is necessary for promoting further energy efficiency. So we'll gather and also work together various cooperation and cooperation in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. San. Is there any other, Pak Nuki? You'd like to have a comment?
Thank you, Pa. I think a very great potential that Japan already shows to us. We really want to see what will be the industrial sectors from a Japanese company, for example, to be more involved on not only providing industry establishment in the region, but also providing a technology that perhaps Southeast Asia can really learn on the improvement of the efficiency. Thank you.
So I think that's a remark. I think everybody, almost everybody, agreeing that Japan is the most advanced, and it has become a culture in Japan that everybody must be efficient in using energy. So I think ASEAN can look up to Japan and learn. I think the ASEC community can be used to as a vehicle or as an institution to discuss with Japan how Japan and ASEAN can learn from each other. I think we are coming to the end of this session, and we thank you very much to the speakers, to Musashi-san from Japan, and let's give a big applause to all the speakers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jono, for your excellent moderation in the session 1, and thank you as well to all speakers. Before we move to session 2, may I please invite the Director of Energy Conservation, Dr. Gigi, to give a token of appreciation to the moderators and speakers for their excellent support in this session. May we have a picture of the 3 moderators and speakers with Dr. Gigi alongside each other, please? Maybe it's also great if we can show the token. Thank you very much, and please give another big round of applause. I think now we will proceed with our coffee break session. In lieu of the time, may we suggest to have a coffee break for 10 minutes. So we will convene here again at 10:55 Jakarta time. May I kindly repeat, we will convene here in 10:55 Jakarta time. Thank you. For your kind information, coffee break is available outside of this meeting room. To all participants, please kindly be seated as we will begin with the program soon. Thank you. To all participants, please kindly re-enter the room and be seated as we will start with the session 2 in a few minutes. Thank you. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the ASEAN workshop on tapping the potential of energy efficiency, Hope we all had a great coffee break for those who are not fasting. And now let us begin with session 2, scaling up energy efficiency in the large energy consuming sector, which is the industry sector. And for this, may I kindly invite to the floor our moderator, Mr. Hani Bershmans, the Vice Chairman of Indonesian Conservation and Energy Efficiency Society, or MASCE, as the moderator.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to this workshop. I'm Hani Bergmans. Like to moderate for the second session. Yeah. So we have 3 speakers for this second session, but it should be started at 10:45. But now we have less 15 minutes so I have 70 minutes actually to this session 2, 20 minutes for each speaker, so totally 60 minutes for all speaker and 10 minutes for Q&A. So I like to offer to you, would you like to have 10-minute Q&A still? If you like to have that 10-minute Q&A, so I propose to cut 5 minutes for all the distinguished speakers we have here, so that rather to spend time 10-20 minutes to present, but they have to spend 15 minutes to present. Is it okay? Okay, we agree? Okay, thank you. So, without further ado, I'd just like to invite our distinguished speaker. The first distinguished speaker is Dr. Gigi Udi Atmo. He is a Director of Energy Conservation of Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, Indonesia. Pak Gigi, please come to the stage. The next speaker Okay. The next speaker is Mr. Wisarut Matosic. He's a professional engineer from Department of Alternative Energy Development and Efficiency from Thailand. Please, welcome to the stage. Hi, Mr. Nice to meet you. The last speaker is Mr. Hendra Surya Kusuma. He is a chairman of ID Pro Indonesia Data Center. Pak Hendra, welcome to the stage. Thank you. Please. So, ladies and gentlemen, introduction for this session 2, we know that up to 2050 in ASEAN, oil will still make up the largest share of total final energy consumption. Oil going to be 47.4%, it's almost 50%. And then followed by electricity, 20.3%, coal around 15%, and the others. So, oil still dominate the energy consumption up to 2050. But ASEAN is already as the country that need to net import of this oil since 25. So oil and electricity from coal, we know that are not friendly environment, not sustainable, going to be more expensive in the future. And then we know that every ASEAN member country, they have planning to do energy transition, decarbonization. So MEMR develop plan draft for this energy transition with the scenario of NZA, net zero emission for 2060. I believe other country, ASEAN energy country, will also have the same plan. So the need to implement energy efficiency, energy conservation, as well as to use renewable energy or new energy becoming very important in the future. So, ladies and gentlemen, due to that reason, we are here gathering together, looking and sharing experience, knowledge, how the best approach, what are the better way to, what is the better strategy, what are the better policy to promote energy efficiency, not only promote but also implement energy efficiency. We know that we are good to use energy, we are effective to use energy, but not efficient to use energy. We have forgotten that actually to use energy more effective and efficient is more important rather than to create the new power plant. So I believe by sharing this experience to among other speakers here and also among us, that would be better for us. It is better to imitate the success in the energy efficiency implementation, adopt the success of the framework in each ASEAN member country rather than to create new one, but with expensive cost and failure. So, in my left side, there are three speakers who like to share the experience, their success with us. So I like to start from Pak Gigi. Yeah. So he like to discuss about mandatory energy management in the industry sector. So Pak Gigi, you have 15 minutes. So I already spent 5 minutes to myself. So please be brief and also clear for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Hani. And in the interest of time, I would like to stand up to accelerate my presentation. Please. As a quick, maybe just to guide us. This is the presentation that, as Pak Hani already mentioned, that I'm going to talk about the energy management for the industrial sector as the largest energy consumers in ASEAN. Also, this is really important in Indonesia as well. So, why this topic is very important today? As I'm also glad that our colleague from international partner are also joining to present and to attend this meeting offline. Kareta from UNDP, August Munimia from Danish Energy Agency, and also Pak Jo. I just call you Pak Johannes from GIZ, Safety, colleague Natalia from IEA, and also Pak Bati from OECD Safety Programs. So this international partner, alongside with, of course, with ASEAN Center for Energy, Anuki, we are trying to work together. We actually working together on how Indonesia trying to decarbonize the energy sector. And in doing so, actually, it will reduce energy consumption and improve competitiveness of Indonesia to meet the demand and manufacturing products for the local and also from the export market. So just on the next slide, we can see that so this is just only 1 minute plus. So this is just a quick reminder that we are working on many platforms of cooperation, COP27, Bali Roadmap, and most recently just Energy Transition Partnership. And then now Indonesia become the ASEAN chairman that it just launched in Friday last week. And also I also would like to mention about the ASEC, ASEA Zero energy community that was launched in Tokyo in 4th of March. We already agree that this is very important platform, very important consensus among the leaders. Now what we, from the technical level, we have to proceed on the next, what is the concrete projects cooperation that we can do together. With the UNDP, we working together to prepare the cooperation on net zero positive. The idea is how we can accelerate decarbonization. One of the particular is in our industry, and also together with August and Bu Nindya, we're trying to identify some subsector in industry which can reduce their energy demand through energy management. Also, in doing so, they also reduce the carbon footprints. And with Johannes from the ASEAN SETI, we try to scale up that cooperation into looking at the industrial zones. So with the IA as well, we are also working together on how we can work to, because nowadays we cannot just talk about the energy, the reduction of energy consumption, but likewise we also think on how by doing so we also reduce the emissions, because this is very important strategy on, as we can see on the next slide. Slide. So we, in September last year, we increased the ambitions to, on our revised NDC, to reduce the carbon emission from the energy sectors with countermeasure 1, 350. This is increased from 314 in the previous, and actually from Ministry of Environment and Forestry, they aims to further increase the target of emission reductions. And on the right, we can see that our throughout the 2030, we developed a roadmap of NDC target. So last year, we achieved 91.5 million ton of CO2 emission reduction, which, if I can say from the number, 22% is contributed from the energy efficiency. And on the next slide, so this is just on the supply side, as we are trying to decarbonize the energy sector, in particular in the industry, we're also trying to provide cleaner energy sources. On the supply side, so the energy mix from renewable continues to increase, and last year is accounted for 12.3% of the total energy mix. Of course, it is still far away from our potential, like when it comes to electricity, more than 3,600 gigawatt potential, but so far we only developed around 12.5 gigawatt. So this is the challenge. How can, if we trying to energy management practices in industry, how can we achieve the goal of reducing the energy consumption and at the same time also provide cleaner or less carbon intensive supply to the industry? Next slide. So here, as we can see that, I think Pak Dadan, our Director General, mentioned that Indonesia has a target of reducing energy intensity 1% every year toward 2025. That we have a target of 17% of emission reduction using the base year 2015. This is a little bit different from the ASEAN that's looking at the base year on 25. So we need to, if we need to in line with the ASEAN target, we have to recalibrate our emission reduction intensity target. So as we can move together, how much actually the reduction that we have been achieved so far. As Pak Dadan already mentioned, our Director General, that last year we achieved around 8 to 9% of an overall emission reduction in intensity, but we still way forward with the remaining time to achieve around 8 or 9% of that beyond the target. So here, from the energy statistic of MEMR, if we see the target, we can see that residential is the largest energy consumption, whereas when it comes to the industry, it's here is transport and followed by the industry. And number of fuel, as Pak Hani mentioned, that oil constituted as the largest fuel in the transport sectors, whereas in the industry, there are quite a mix between coal, gas, and electricity. So this, as we can see, the industrial sector consume a lot of fossil fuels, in particular coal and natural gas. On the next slide, there are a number of, when we introduce energy management, we're hoping to see the reduction of energy consumption around between 10 to up to 30% through a number of action. Like the first step is we need to conduct the audit. We have been assisted by Danish Energy Agency to conduct some audit in some subsectors, including food and beverage. Like afterward, we also need to introduce, the next step is the most important, energy management. That there are a number of standards, including ISO 50001. And then afterward, we also introduce some mandatory reporting to make sure that those that has some obligation to implement the energy management, they implement the action and also report the result to MEMR, to the ministry. So by doing so, we're hoping to reduce the 10 to 30% of emission and also energy reductions. On the next slide, so this is five strategies, if I can say that. The first is to achieve the energy efficiency. So we introduce energy management implementation, and then set up a standard and labeling for appliances. And also, we're hoping on the transport, include in particular energy saving technology like EV, and also for residential, we also introduce some induction stove and also air conditioner as the largest appliances which consume energy. And number 4, this is the challenge that we are currently facing, that the energy service company is not really taking the momentum in Indonesia, although we already introduced this quite some time ago. So how can we encourage the market, encourage the financiers? How can we create a policy and instruments to reduce the perceived risk on investment on the energy efficiency? Something that I think one of the key area where ASEAN collectively with support from international partners can work together. And number 5, of course, we will continue to conduct some activity to increase the awareness and also to give the award or reward for those who already implement energy efficiency or energy management practices. On the next slide. So this is just in the matter of time, this is the chance when it comes to energy management, following the international standard of ISO 50001. This is the step that we would like to follow, and by doing so, this is the energy saving percentage that from our record, based on the fuels, all coal is the largest fuel consumption, and so far it only reduced 1%. This is one of the key highlights. And on the next slide, and I mentioned about the online reporting. This is what we have got so far. So last year there are 242 companies in industry which submitted a report on their energy management practices. they mention about the total energy consumption equivalent to electricity is 852,000 gigawatt hours, with the saving reported is 20 more than 20,000 461 gigawatt hours. So actually, if you do some calculation, you can see that 20,000 divided by 850,000, it just constitute of 2.4% of the savings, energy savings. So that's way well below the target of between 10 to 30% of the saving. This is our homework. I believe through these forums, we urge, or we hope there are some cooperation that we can do together at the level of ASEAN, such that we can improve our industry competitiveness by continue to implement the energy management activities. Because we believe that by doing so, it improve our competitiveness from the regional-wise point of view, and also at the same time reduce the emission carbon footprints from our industry products. So that's the key message that I would like to have from this presentation. So maybe next slides. This is the detail. So as you can see that there are various fuels. As you can see, coal is still dominating fuel in our industry, and it's very challenging on how to decarbonize, because they are providing some specific subsector, including like iron and steel metallurgy, that consume coal as their to provide high heating value, heating activity. The activity that is so far is hard to decarbonize. So hopefully we can find solution on how we can reduce coal consumption in industry, and maybe changing to like from blast oxygen furnace to electric arc furnace. That's one of the key example of we can reduce on how we can reduce or fuel switching from coal to the electricity. And I think this is one of the key presentation that I would like to make. There are some next slide. This is when it comes to personnel, we also need to, I think we will need to work together on how we can encourage more certified energy manager and energy auditors, such that they can, because those that has obligation to implement energy efficiency or energy management, they have to have competent energy managers in their respective companies. And at the same time, they also, when it comes to audit, they have some certification of the auditors, energy auditors. So far, this is the trend in Indonesia, and we hoping to see that this trend will continue in the next future. I think with that, in the interest of time, I would like to end my presentation and looking forward for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Gigi. It is really informative and interesting presentation. So I would like to highlight that Indonesia, through Directorate Energy Conservation, has clear strategy in implementing energy efficiency and energy conservation. There are 5 strategies. The implementation of energy management, as we've seen from the presentation there, that energy management's implementation, not only adoption of the standard of energy management, but also implement that standard. Right? And then the second strategy is to implement labeling. I recall that we have to work together to implement labeling, YC split, and it's already been there. And the third strategy to implementation of energy saving technology, electrification of the transportation, electrification of the cooking, which is the past to use oil, in the future that probably all need to be changed to electricity. So implement this energy saving technology one of the strategy. The next strategy is to encourage ESCO implementation. So ESCO implementation is very important because we see from the session one in the morning the challenge of energy efficiency financing there. And then private sector need to be involved in here is through ESCO, the application. And the last is the awareness and capacity building. That is the 5 strategy that proposed and implemented by Directorate Energy Conservation. We also heard that big consumer and opportunity for saving is industry, up to 20%, up to 30% even. Yeah? So there are one effort that been done by Directorate Energy Conservation. They have reporting system for the industrial sector, implementation of energy management through POME. Yeah? I believe that already been implemented and now need to be escalated to be more, not only for monitoring on the mitigation, but also action for this. So thank you, Pak Gigi. So I'd like to continue for the second speaker. Second speaker will be Pak Wisarut Matasis. Yeah, Pak Wisarut, you have 15 minutes. Yeah, spare with the title is Thailand's Energy Management Best Practice Industry. And so once again, this is an implementation of energy management in industry. We like to hear from you. 15 minutes.
Yep. Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wisarut Metasit from Ministry of Energy of Thailand. And today I would like to present the Thailand's energy management best practices in industries. Can we have the presentation up, please? Thank you. And then next slide. Okay, so firstly, I would like to give you some overview on Thailand's energy situation in 2021. So around like 2 years ago, not exactly like the most recent, but this is our most currently updated data. So Thailand has consumed approximately 72,000 KTOE of energy, which is kiloton of oil equivalent, which around 50% comes from renewable energy. So some would be in the form of thermal energy, and some would be in the form of solar, as you can see from the presentation. Most of our energy consumption would be in the transportation sector and the industrial sector, which comprise of around 75% of total energy consumption. So just the industrial sector alone is around 37%, which plays a major role in terms of energy consumption, which also affect the national energy security. And in that case, that's why, as many countries do, we also have a mandate to reduce our energy intensity, which brings us to the next slide, please. Actually, would it be possible to bring up the PDF version instead? Because I think the presentation has some like fonts problem. Do you have the PDF version?
Is it possible to change that to PDF version?
I think I submit like the PDF version as well. Yeah, I think it might be better.
So while we're waiting,
yeah, I guess I will just continue in the meantime. So it's a bit difficult to, sorry, can you go back to the, yes, thank you. So as I have mentioned earlier, so Thailand has the mandate to reduce energy intensity. So right now we are in the process of drafting a new plan called the Energy Efficiency Plan 2022, or we just abbreviated as EEP 2022. So the goal of the plan is in line with our carbon emission reduction target, and we would like to reduce the energy intensity reduction by 36%, which would be around 52,000 KTOE by the year 2037. and the base year that we use is 2010. So as you can see from the presentation, we divide the measures to be implemented into three main strategies: compulsory, voluntary, and complementary measures. And in this case, the topic that we'll be talking about today, the energy management belongs in the compulsory strategies and is highlighted in red. So these measures has been part of the energy efficiency plan in Thailand for many, many years, and we expect it to do so in the future as well. So as you can see from the bottom right table, we also have the energy saving by sector. And in this case, you can see that the majority of the reduction we expect to come from the industrial sector and the transportation sector at 35% and 48% respectively. So next slide, please. So in the case of Thailand, we are lucky to have the legal framework that support energy efficiency. So we have what we call the Energy Conservation and Promotion Act of 2535, which is the Buddhist calendar. And in the normal year would be 1992, and it has been revised in 2008. So the act serves as our main tools as the government to come up with policies regarding energy efficiency. The act allows us to create what we call the Energy Conservation and Promotion Fund, which is the main source of our funding. It also produces the mandate for energy management system, standard and labeling, and many more. So after we have established the Energy Conservation and Promotion Act, we have the decree on designated buildings and factories separately. So designated factories and buildings are basically large energy consumers, which I will be talking about that a bit later. But also based on the act, we also have many ministerial regulations. And you can see from the bottom left, there are 3 regulations that is the key measures, the key regulations that will serve in the energy management system. Namely the Energy Management in Designated Buildings and Factories Regulation, which basically tell factories and buildings on what they have to do. We also have the person responsible for energy, which is pretty much the same as the energy managers, and the energy management auditors, which serve to be the one who audit the energy management conducted in factories and buildings. So next slide, please. Okay, so this is the energy management system in Thailand, the overview. So I have mentioned earlier that we have what we call the designated factories and buildings. And in this case, this is what we classify as designated factories and buildings. So they have to satisfy one of the 3 criteria, not all 3, just one of them. So they either have electric meter larger than 1000 kilowatt, or have a transformer more than 1175 kVA, or have annual energy consumption of more than 20 terajoules per year. If they satisfy one of these criteria, then they are classified as designated factories or buildings. And if they consume even larger amount of energy, as you can see in the group 2 table, then they will be classified as designated factories and buildings in group 2. And what do they have to do? So after they become designated factories and buildings, they have the legal responsibility. There are 2 of them. The first one is that they have to appoint the energy manager, which in Thailand we call it the PRE. So if you are in group 1, you need to have 1 PRE. Or if you're in group 2, then you have to have 2 PRE, in which one of them has to be the senior PRE. In addition to that, they also have to conduct energy management system in their factories and buildings, and they have to submit a report to our department every March. So for example, this year, the energy consumption and energy management conducted in 2022 would have to be submitted to our department within the year 2023 in March. So pretty much around 2 days ago. They have to submit them. And as of now, we have around 9,729 factories and buildings in total, as you can see from the top right. And around 6,400 of those are designated factories. Our compliance rate is at around 70 or 80%, and the energy management report that they have submitted to us play a major role in our policy making. On the bottom right is the timeline or the process of what they have to do. Essentially, because I think we are quite low on time. Yes, so factories and buildings will have to appoint the energy manager, conduct energy management system, submit the report, which has to be first audited by the third-party energy auditor, who would then compile the report and then make energy audit report, and altogether all of those reports will be submitted to us. Okay, but these programs has been in place for many years now. I think we have started this process way back in 2009. We have over 10 years of historical energy data from factories. But in order to achieve our aspiring goal, both on the regional, national, and international level, we have to go for more. So today I would like to present to you our initiative, which is in collaboration with NECTEC, the National Electronic and Computer Technology Center. Next slide, please. So this thing is called the Industrial IoT and Data Analytics Platform, or we just call it the IDA platform for short. So essentially, the problems that we have seen from factories is that they might have tried to implement IoT and smart meters, so those big things. But the problem is that many different vendors have different protocol. They have different energy management system. They have many different dashboard, and after all that, it's hard to integrate them together. And some of them could be quite costly as well. So IDA platform, the goal is to aggregate all the data from different sensors, from different equipment provided by many different vendors, and put them all in one place and provide some platform that factories can use to do data analytics on. So this project is quite a big one. We have many parties involved. We have 6 technologies provider. I think you might have seen some of them: Siemens, Cisco. We also have Palo Alto, which is the cybersecurity provider. We also have NextPi, which is our national IoT platform startup. We also have participation for many factories. We have 13 pilot factories. Many of them are very big players in Thailand. We also have 7 system integrators who put the subsystem together, and we also have regulatory bodies and supporting agencies coming into play. Next slide, please. So just to give you a quick overview on what IDA platform does. So I have mentioned earlier already, so factories may have sensors in production line, power meter, also have vendor-based data sensors from cooling tower, pump motor, chillers, and so on. So most of this can be presented in their own platform, but now we use the Universal Remote Terminal, or the UR Connect, we call it, to collect them all together, send them to the gateway, and ensure that it's secure by using the cybersecurity provided by Palo Alto. And we also have MQTT, which is the machine-to-machine transfer protocol. And put that together, we submit the data to the cloud, which can then do data analytics powered by the SMC, which is a company. And the data visualization for executive level can be constructed using Grafana, which is the data visualization platform, open access. So I know that's a lot, but the key ideas is, to put everything together in one place. Next slide, please. So these are some of the initial template that we have right now. So there are quite small, I believe, on the presentation, but essentially we have on the left is just for one factory. So one factory can look at their production line, they can look at the peak energy consumption, either in terms of power demand or energy consumption in general. You can also look at chillers, which is on the bottom left. You can look at the ton refrigerant that is currently being used. You can look at the efficiency in terms of kilowatt per ton refrigerant, for example. On the right, you can look at multiple factories at once. So in this case, the horizontal line is like the SEC, the specific energy consumption of each factories. And you can monitor multiple factories at once to see which one achieve the target that you set. Next slide, please. Okay, and these are some more, a little bit more technical details. I show you the first one on the left is gonna be the overview of the factories, but this time more detail. It can decompose the energy cost in the industry into the peak cost, power cost, the feed-in tariff cost, and more. You can also look at the bottom left, which is the data on chillers. You can look at the SEC. You can look at the energy consumption. On the top right, we also have some more chillers. And on the bottom right, I think I said top right earlier, hopefully. Top right is going to be some more chillers. Bottom right is going to be the compressor, which you can look at when the compressor is on load or off load, for example. And next slide, please. Okay, so yep, cool. All right, so this is just some, fancy diagram just to show that, it can actually move and stuff. But essentially, it represents exactly the same stuff as I have mentioned earlier. So in practice, this is going to be in real time. So you can always monitor, and it's on the cloud. So you can access it from the internet. Or if you want to, you can also prohibit it from accessing from the internet if you prefer security. Next slide, please. So this is pretty much the same thing, but this time for multiple factories, as I have mentioned earlier. It's also possible to do so. Okay, and I think I have one more slide. Next one, please. Okay, and in this case, just to summarize quickly about the benefit of the IDA platform, you can consider them in 3 levels. The national level, of course, the benefit is that we can collect the data of the big pictures of the energy efficiency in multiple factories. And in this case, we can use them to make a more tailor-made energy efficiency policy. And in the industrial level, of course, this is like the high-level energy management system. So you can look at real-time data, and you can come up with a more advanced energy efficiency measures. And you can also do predictive maintenance if you see that an equipment is losing its efficiency. And of course, on the economic level, it also enhances the national competitiveness on the global scale, and also provide a platform for startup to participate in this kind of activities. Okay, so I think I went a bit over time, but hopefully it doesn't go over by much. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Masarat. It's very interesting with the fancy picture there. So I can grab some information within your presentation there, that it seems that in Thailand, 35% of energy consumption for industry, right? So the biggest position is for industry, followed by the commercial sector, and then there's also legal framework for energy conservation and promotion act for legal framework and energy conservation and promotion act focus on building and factory there.
Yes.
By implementing energy management. So the implementation of energy management also adopt this ISO 5001. And in the industry, there are 2 different groups for implementation of this energy management. group 1 appoint one energy manager in certain level of
That's
energy
correct.
consumption. This group 2 appoint two manager for the implementation of energy management. But that's also conduct energy management system, as you already saw that in the diagram, and submit the report to the government, right?
That's correct.
And the most interesting part is technology there. Implementation of IDA, industrial IoT. IoT stands for Internet of Things, ladies and gentlemen. This is actually digitalization technology key on the Industrial 4.0 era. And I believe this is already been implemented widely in Thailand.
Not particularly widely, but we are planning to disseminate them in the
You plan
future.
it-
Yes,
plan to
so right
disseminate.
now it has been implemented in 13 pilot factories.
Okay, so there are some pilot projects already been implemented there. Yeah?
Yes, has been implemented.
So
yes.
this IDEA platform is the one of the important technology in the Thailand. It seems that this is going to be evolve, and then I believe there are many benefits. It's already been mentioned. There are 3 benefits, not only on the national level, industrial level, but also economic level. Thank you. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. You probably have so many questions to discuss, to ask about this platform. You have time. I'd like to continue for the next speaker. Yeah. Next speaker is Pak Hendra Suryakusuma, Chairman of ID Pro Indonesia Data Center. Your title of your presentation, The Need for Green Data Center in ASEAN. I believe this is related to the implementation of the green technology on the data center for the information technology system. Time yours, Pak.
Thank you.
15 minutes, Pak.
Yeah,
15
I think
minutes.
I'm gonna might to skip some slides because the
That's
time
okay.
is quite. Yeah. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hendra Suryakusuma. I'm the chairman of Indonesia Data Center Provider Organization. It's truly an honor and also privilege to be able to actively participate in this prestigious event. So it's good to see that I can see some familiar faces in the audience. We have Pak Wisnu, Pak Suminto, Bu Sari. Yeah, so basically what I would like to address in this event is that the growth in this industry, which actually consume a lot of energy, is very rapidly growing, especially for the past 5 years. Could you please pull out the presentation deck? So I would like to start with how digital transformation in Indonesia shaping its data center landscape. So let's move to the next slide. So we actually started only in 2016 with only 6 members, and we manage and operate only 32 megawatts. But now we grow to, we have 14 members now. So 13 DC data center colocation providers and only 1 university. So I established this organization back in 2016 with Pak Toto Sugiri, which is the CEO of DCI, and also Professor Kalamul Haramli and Pak Richard Kartawijaya, who used to work for GTN. And based on our data, in December 2022, we grew to more than 200 megawatts of power capacity just within our member, 14 of them. This is excluding the power capacity that being built by companies like Amazon, AliCloud, and Microsoft. So it's significantly growing for the past 5 years. So the compounded annual growth rate from 2016 all the way to 2019 is about 21%. But I think there were acceleration happening in 2020 because of the COVID. And I think the number is actually growing more than 30% back then. So as you can see, company like GTN, BDX, Princeton Digital Group, all these major DC providers are already becoming our member. Next slide, please. Yeah, so the reason why we established this organization, because back in 2016, a lot of DC providers are actually self-claimed that they're actually already achieved Tier 3 certification, and that's not true. And also we can see a lot of government institutions when we review their data center is actually a server rooms. It's not even a data center. So that's the reason why we partner especially very close with the Ministry of communication and informatics. And in 2019, we established this Standard Nasional Indonesia Pusat Data, SNI Pusat Data 8799. So what we would like to establish is actually to have our own data center standard, which similarly, you can actually compare it with what already available in the market, certification like TIA 942 from EPI or Uptime Institute. So in data center, we have tier classification, we call it, from tier 1 all the way to tier 4. And in our standard national pusat data, we have strata 1, strata 1, all the way to strata 4. And we already contributed through this initiative by having e-portal so that people can actually understand more about SNI pusat data. That's portal number 1. And portal number 2 is the e-assessment, so that government institutions can actually compare their data center with our standard. So the standard already become reference in Perpres SPBE, Peraturan Presiden Sistem Pemerintahan Berbasis Elektronik. Next slide, please. Yeah, next slide. So there are 3 key main drivers that actually propel the growth of this industry, the data center industry. One of it is actually because of the macroeconomic, yeah. So as you can see from this slide, especially for the internet penetration, this year, based on APJI data, Internet Service Provider Association of Indonesia, there are already 77% of the population already have access to internet. Means that the numbers growing from the 73% to 77%. So that's more than 210 million people of Indonesia are actually have the access to internet. And the good thing about our nation is that 74% of our population is actually below 40. We are very quite young nation, and I think that's the reason why a lot of digital adoption happening very fast, and so many startup companies they enjoy it by having they greatly well funded now, and we have I think more unicorns compared to other Asian countries in the region, right? So yeah, we can go to the next slide. Oh, this is also quite interesting. So as you can see from the data on the top, this is based on 2017 data. The gross merchandise value of the e-commerce business is only $8 billion. And this number is actually increased now to 59 billion US dollar. So this is just within very short period of time, like 4 years time. And not only e-commerce, but companies like payment, also investment companies like the Stockbit. We have also Ajaib. They receive a lot of traction in 2020. So 2020 is actually one of the critical year for us data center players, because we can see that a lot of technology startup related company is actually enjoying a lot of growth during this time. Yeah, so we have more unicorns, and also some of these companies already become decacorn. Bear in mind that this is quite old data. I think Gojek already become decacorn now. Also Traveloka. Yeah, we can skip. So not only from the macroeconomics perspective, but also a lot of digital transformation initiative, both from public and also private sectors, are actually being propelled by regulation. One of it is actually Industry 4.0 initiative from our Ministry of Industry. So it was quite interesting to know the fact that Thailand also did the same thing. But I heard that we only have like not more than 5 pilot factories in Indonesia. So the idea is actually to make sure that combining this IoT technology with the cloud computing and also cognitive computing, machine learning will help us in having predictive analysis and also making sure that we can create a more energy efficient production. So this actually key driver number 3. So apart from digital transformation, we can see also a lot of companies are actually now adopting the cloud computing. Gone are the days where these small, medium businesses with less than 100 employees, they actually went to buy, storage, servers, network equipments, they will go directly to buy computing resource from companies like Amazon, Google, and any other cloud computing providers. And driver number 3 is actually regulation. So we can see that based on this data, especially for the Cominfo PP82 back in 2012, many of the members of ID Pro is actually enjoying a rapid growth. So specifically in clause number 17, it was stated something along this line that all the companies that providing public services in Indonesia, they have to have DC and also disaster recovery center in Indonesia. And that regulation was actually strengthening by the specific regulation by OJK and BI. And that's the reason why a lot of multinational companies from the financial service industry are actually migrating their servers to Indonesia. This is in 2012 all the way up to 2016. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, all these companies are actually moving. You can continue. Yeah, continue. And also this is quite interesting. So we have so many micro, small, and medium enterprises in Indonesia. So total is about 62 million of them. And we can see a lot of them are actually now embracing this digital transformation. If you notice that a lot of street vendors, we call it warteg, they now accepting QRIS, the digital payment solution. The middle enterprise, companies that already have 2.5 billion rupiah all the way to 15 billion annual turnover, many of them are actually now embracing cloud computing. Yeah, continue. But yeah, we can go to the next slide. This is something that I would like to highlight. Kita next slide ya, Mas. So as you can see from this slide, if we compare Indonesia to Singapore, this is the data that I got from 2022. Back then, we only have like 120 megawatts of power capacity in terms of data center power capacity. And if we compare it to Singapore, they have more than 500 megawatts of power capacity. Their population is only 5.6 million, and Indonesia, we have more than 274 million people. And if you talk about the gross merchandise value, Indonesia have 40 billion US dollar, while Singapore has 12 billion US dollar. So if we look at the data from Structure Research as well as Cushman Wakefield, in Indonesia, it was predicted that the growth of data center industry will reach about 2.7 gigawatts. This is in the 9 years time from 2022. So it's quite interesting because currently the ID Pro members just managing around 200 megawatts power capacity. But we can predict this year, at the end of this year, because of this huge expansion happening in some of the members of ID Pro, we can predict that the growth of data center in this year will be reach around 400 megawatts, so almost double than last year. Amazing numbers, yeah. And this is the contribution of data center industry to the GDP. So it's around 172 trillion rupiah in 2024. I got this data from the Mastel. So as you can see, a lot of digital transformation happening. There is this company called OpenAI, and they has this launch the product 3 months ago, ChatGPT. Just within 2 weeks' time, they can reach users, almost 100 million users just within 1 week time. So we can see a lot of computing resource going to be needed in the near future. There will be a lot of data being generated, being transferred, being stored, and also being analyzed. And it takes data center to do it. So as you can see, there will be a lot of data volume, IP traffic, storage, and processing power is going to be needed. And in 2025, our government is planning to launch the 5G implementation. And this number also quite, this year, 2025 is very actually, a lot of members of ID Pro really anticipate this year because we expect data explosion by that time. And through a lot of initiative from our government, we can see that, especially from Bhakti, they have this Palaparing and Satria Satellite Initiative. So making sure that people from especially eastern part of Indonesia, they also enjoy, high speed latency, and then also they enjoy secure and also reliable connectivity. So that's essentially what I would like to share, because I think I have so many slides. I need to cut it out. But the essence is, now we are in the very significant growth process in this industry, and we need to anticipate on how to create a more sustainable and also energy efficient energy to power our data center. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Hendra. You actually still have 2 minutes to read, but it's okay. We already see 12 o'clock, so I like to come back to the event organizer, whether we still have time for Q&A. Possible, yeah? 10 minutes? It's okay, 10 minutes. So ladies and gentlemen, with all those three speaker presentation, the last speaker and the Pak Hendra, I can gather some information in this last speaker. It said that the ID Pro is the only data center association in Indonesia. That is correct. And ID Pro has 14 members and the capacity is increasing for this unit. And then I want to be learning center for this data center. And then because of the data, need the data center due to the growing amount of data is increasing exponentially. Yeah, we see from the number of unicorn in Indonesia, Gojek, yeah, or business online in Indonesia increasing, the using of this social media increasing. There is a need to storage all those data. This data, digital data, increasing exponential. So the need to store this data in the data center, and eventually the need for the data center increasing exponentially, send the market growing. So that I can capture from here. And then of course, in this session, we are talking about energy efficiency opportunity to do energy efficiency in data center. So, ladies and gentlemen, I like to have 3 questions. Yeah, 3 questions. One from the left, my left side, one in the middle, one in the right side. Please. If you have any question, comment, please do. Satu, in the middle. Pak, please state your name, tell your name, your institution, and please be brief in your question. To
Thank you,
whom
Pak.
your question? Okay.
Thank you, Pak. My name is Wisnu, introduced by Pak Hendra. I was really very much enjoy this conference, but I got a paradox from Pak Didi and wanted to reduce the using of electricity. On the other hand, Pak Hendra heavily brought up the need of data center in megawatt, 2 times, even 4 times bigger than last year. How then we see this situation? But on the other hand, government want to do the reduction, but Pak Hendra and friends and myself as well wanted to have some more electricity for our data center. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for the question, sir. So the question directed to Pak Hendra and also Pak Gigi. Pak Gigi said that it is necessary to do energy efficiency, energy management in the user side. But Pak Hendra said, well, we need more energy for the data center. So start from Pak Gigi. So what should we do?
Thank you, Pak Wisnu, for a very interesting question. So when it comes to energy efficiency, there are 2 things. So when it comes to reduction of energy consumption and like energy intensity, like 1% every year, meaning that we understand there are some what you call a structural change, and also the actual equipment that you are installing. when it comes to data centers, this is new economy, yeah, new economy coming into Indonesia from international investors, yeah, as we are transforming into digital economy. So this is, of course, we are embracing this idea. We are also looking forward to provide more supply and reliable supply of electricity to your data centers. Not only that, some provider also demanding for green electricity. This is something that we also have to provide, either through direct renewable energy development or through what we call it renewable energy certificate, something that those companies, those international companies can claim that the electricity that's supplied or the energy that they are using to supply the data center is low carbon energy. So this is different from the energy efficiency that we are aiming for. So what we are looking for is, if you're looking at, for example, Amazon's, we understand that for your data center, the main driven for energy is for the cooling. The Amazon use a strategy to use water cooling systems that they can recirculate the water as long as possible, such that it reduce the energy consumption per kilowatt hour to cool your data center. This is one of the key example on how, whereas you continue to grow or to continue increase the data center business, as well as, of course, the electricity consumptions, but at the same time you choose technology that enabling you to have less energy consumption per megabyte of data that you are serving in your data centers. That's the key part. Thank you.
Okay, that's answer from Pak Gigi. So we like to see answer from Pak Hendra. Please, Pak Hendra.
Yeah, I totally forgot to mention that ID Pro is actually collaborating with Maske. We just launched this white paper for the green data center on last September. So we hope that we can actually amend our green data center standard by having this green data center standard. So that's one part. The other part is also we actually really noticed that most of the members of ID Pro is actually relying primarily on using the coal power plants. This is something that we need to be very honest about it. And that's the reason why a lot of initiative that comes from ID Pro member is actually very focusing in using the DCIM, Data Center Infrastructure Management. And they're also implementing machine learning, also the IoT, to make sure that they run a very efficient operation. But this is something that we would like to actually discuss further with the Ministry of Energy to have a specific workshop specifically for this industry, because this industry already become like the backbone of the digital economy of Indonesia. So we host companies like e-commerce, payment gateways, and also investing companies, banks. And we can see that a lot of these institutions are, heavily migrated using the digital format in their business. And we need to support this by still using the green and also sustainable energy.
Yes, thank you, Pak Hendra. So Pak Hendra answer actually complement the answer from Pak Gigi. There is no contradiction, Pak. The growing of the electricity need within the data center is inevitable. It means actually transformation of the information to become digital information, of course, need electricity. And Indonesia still in the era not in peak time of energy consumption. So there will be increasing energy consumption, but it will not against the government strategy. Yeah, government strategy. If you like to use data center technology there for the air conditioning or the backup system, it must use green technology or energy efficiency technology. And energy efficiency technology are one of the key strategy within the government. Yeah, answer Pak ya. Next question, please, in the floor, in the left side, right side. Okay. There is no question in the left side and in the right side. All come from the middle. It doesn't matter. Silakan. Please state your name, Bu.
Thank you,
And from
Pak
your
Hani. My
institution.
name is Herlin from
Herlin.
ASRI Indonesia chapter. So, echoing Pak Wisnu that mentioning about the data center in Indonesia, I believe that the energy consumption in data center mostly is for air conditioning, right, Pak? Yeah.
And computing resource, Bu.
Yeah. So, do you have any special focus on how to limit the energy consumption for the chillers that we will use in data centers? Especially you mentioned already the SNI for the data center, ya Pak ya. So what is include in the SNI? Is it including what is the technology you have um, to mention in the tier strata 1 until strata 5, yeah, because we believe that this chillers technology already we have already very high energy efficient. I'm afraid we miss this focus on air conditioning. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Herlin. So the question from Bu Herlin is straightforward to you, Pak.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bu
Please
Herlin.
answer.
Maybe I answered the last question about the SNI Pusat Data. What's actually the content of it, right? So there are three components. There are three big components. This is very high level. One is actually focusing on the data center infrastructure itself. So strata 1 all the way to strata 4 is actually focusing more on the reliability, on how you configure your mechanical, electrical, and cooling. Number 2 about the operation management, and number 3 is about the audit process. So there are three components. To answer your question about how do we as a DC provider are actually try to, reduce the or increasing the power utilization of efficiency. One of it is actually by doing a lot of research in the cooling system itself. So even my company now already explored the opportunity of combining the gas engine with the direct absorption chiller engine in making sure that we can actually have a lower PUE level. But most practice that actually are done by my members are actually by having a cold L containment or hot L containment, because using a very traditional cooling system, you actually cool the room, but now people are actually focusing more on cooling the racks. And some of the advanced technology is even cooling the processor itself. There is this technology called immersion cooling. And we actually, on a monthly basis, always discussing about it. So maybe if the people from outside ID Pro see that we are competitors, but apparently we're actually talking about so many operation issues that happening in our data center on a monthly basis. Thank you, Bu. Hope it answers, yeah?
Answer your question, ya, Bu Herlin. It focus not on the cooling system, but it focus on the object need to be cooled there, right? So if you focus on the cooling system, probably there are the cooling system already precise cooling system, a very reliable system. But then it's very interesting. Focus on the object need to be cooled there. Okay, thank you. Other question? There in the left. Please, Pak. Mohon speakernya kalau ada yang... You can speak up, but the others from the audience cannot hear
no
you in
problem,
the
Pak
Zoom.
Hani. Thank you, Pak Hani. Just a quick question. We are talking about management. I'm wondering how is experience from Thailand or also from Indonesia regarding the energy evaluation, though. I guess management is a kind of downstream, right? But all the sectors, so many, and then also the, what we call it, the behavioral side, also important. I think the last time we had a carbon tax too. Yeah, Pak Gigi, carbon tax. I don't know what is the experience from Thailand too, in order to, to reduce. Yeah, this is energy and emission is two sides of the coin. We use more and we emit more. So we have to give the, what do you call that? Stick and carrot, right? yeah, stick and carrot. So please, Pak Gigi, how far we go for the evaluation or looking at the mirror, right? What has been done, so many strategy, but actually we sometimes we miss. Maybe we have to have a concrete kind of evaluation methodology. We don't know whether from Thai, maybe not for Indra. This is a question for these two gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Professor Harun. That's question to Pak Gigi was related to the energy evaluation on the energy management system, and then also to Pak Matasic, yeah, to question more on the implementation of carbon pricing, yeah, nilai ekonomi carbon or carbon tax. Yeah, both of you can answer those questions, please.
Thank you, Pak Hani. Thank you, Pak Prof. So that's true. That's we need to, whenever any possible to, because we are based on when it comes to energy efficiency, we have like went by general plan of electricity, general plan of energy. That as I think Pak Eugene already mentioned that we have a target of reducing our energy intensity 17% in our final energy demand by 2025. So using the baseline of year 2015, yeah. And so far we are in between 8 to 9% of that target. So we are still have some homework to do. Yeah, so that's why when it comes to final energy demand, we have to look into sectors like industry, building, transport, and residential. Different strategy. But for example, in our government regulation on energy conservation 70 2009, we are now in the final process to revise that regulation, because that regulation only mandate of those which consume 6,000 TOE or above. So meaning that we only targeting.
Sorry, Pak Gigi, probably you need to change this.
So we only targeting those with high energy consumptions, like iron and steel, pulp and paper, and etc. So we are revising that. So we reflect on the past, and we are take action to revise to going to reduce to industry transport into 4,000 TOE. So we reduce 2,000 below, meaning that we are targeting more energy users. And also for the buildings, of course, building cannot consume that much. So we are, for specifically on building there, we are targeting 500 ton of oil equivalent. This is commercial buildings, as I think Natalie mentioned it. This is area where energy efficiency can be implemented to reduce the demand. That's for the reflections. I also briefly mentioned about respond to your question on the carbon emissions, not about carbon tax, but also on the carbon, what the value of the carbon that can be coming from the energy efficiency activity. As I mentioned in my presentation, that this year or last year, out of 91 million ton of CO2 emission reduction target that we have achieved, 22% coming from energy efficiency. If we compare the cost, so the remaining is from renewable energy and so fuel switching. If we compare the cost of achieving this 22% versus those on coming from renewable, this is way much lower in energy efficiency. So that's why this is in the system where energy is at the moment, like in Java Bali, for example, where energy is, or electricity in particular, is quite over, like temporary more than what we need. Some people call it oversupply, but I would like to say it's overcapacity. This is the time when we, of course, we should introduce more robust energy efficiency measures. By doing so, we can reduce the carbon emission reductions. And of course, we still need to work together with our colleague from Ministry of Environment and Forestry. How can we put value on this carbon emission reduction? Whether this can become an offset For example, to the emission trading scheme in the power generation that was introduced in February last February. This is already April. So that's one of the key areas. How can we put value on the carbon reduction from energy efficiency? Thank you, Pak.
Thank you, Pak Kiki. More from Pak Mathiasic?
Yes. So just to give you a quick comment on your question. So for your question number one on the evaluation of energy management. So as I have mentioned in my presentation, so we actually have the third-party auditor. So when factories and buildings conduct energy management system, they have to comply a report, and those are audited by our energy auditor who are certified by our department. So that's one thing. We also have capacity building programs in order to promote a better way to do measurement and verification. We normally promote the method as described in the IPMVP, which are the standards for the energy management and verification. So I think that those are pretty good, but of course we still see some incorrect data that has been submitted to us as well, and I think that is the point where data science and data analytics could come in to detect these errors and maybe try to make a more tailor-made policies that can inform these factories to better do energy management system. As for the second question on the carbon tax, whether we have like carrot and sticks, well, for now we have a lot of carrots. Particularly in the field of like electric vehicles, we have like tax, excise tax reduction, we have import duty reduction, we have subsidies programs for both the one who are buying electric vehicles or like for factories that plan to construct EV in Thailand or make battery factories in Thailand. As for the stick, not so much, but those are work in progress. Those are the work that is currently being in progress by the ONEP. If I remember correctly, it's the Office of Natural and Environment Policies and Planning Office, if I remember correctly. But essentially, we are trying to establish the Carbon Act. Essentially, these are going to be like the main mandate to ensure that we are on track for the goal in the carbon reduction as we have commit during the COP26. I hope that kind of answer your questions. Thank you.
So, answer from those speakers probably able to complement you, Professor Harun. Excellent, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I promised actually to spend 10 minutes for Q&A session, but it seems it's already more than 10 minutes, but still have 2 questions from Zoom. From the participant attend on the Zoom. And I'd like to get the opportunity to read this question. The first question from Pak Zamuddin Manan to Mr. Mathiasic, because he put his first name there. Does IDA cover thermal energy process data consumption and also ability to real-time monitoring system? Yeah.
So that's correct. So we have real-time monitoring based on the platform, yes.
Yeah. So, of course, IT information, Internet of Things technology, IoT, should be able to do that, right? Because if you want to measure, you want to control, you need to measure. That should be able to be monitored, right?
Well, it depends too, because if you have like every second updates, then of course that's going to be a heavy burden on the data usage. Yeah. So most of the time, the data could be updated every 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes, depending on the preference and the necessity of the users.
So there is level of real time here. Thank you. So hopefully that can answer Pak Zamudin Manan question. The next question from Pak Andika Satrio to Pak Gigi. This is the question, Pak Gigi. Future plan for MEMR on industrial equipment and also electric vehicle technology. It means probably the implementation of energy efficient technology in industrial and also transportation sector. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Pak Andika. So as a quick one, for the EV, as we have a clear roadmap here, our grand strategy energy, national grand strategy energy, that we are aiming for to provide, become the main global hub for battery manufacturing as well as EV manufacturing. So how are we going to achieve? How are we going to achieve this? Because I think Director General Padadan mentioned that we are number one of nickel. We have resources, so we have to have some added value on that natural resources to process within the country, and such that we can produce precursor and also component, anode, cathode, and to make a battery that later on will be used for electric vehicles. So from the point of view of optimum supply chain, of course, it is easier if those electric manufacturing, EV manufacturers will also located in Indonesia. So that's why that's how we are going to make some multiplier effects. Of course, we can work together with all of countries, in particular in ASEAN, such that they can produce a component to make the vehicles.
Yeah. So that is for the transportation sector, utilizing the nickel resource. Yeah. Put added value on that. On the industrial.
Yeah. On the industry, this is a quite challenging question. Maybe Hani can also respond to that, because there are some
regulatory question.
Yeah. So like, what are you going to? Because if we're mapping our industry demand in terms of energy, we saw some metallurgy, like iron and steel is one of the key energy consuming, and what they need is actually heating, high heating, and how to process is like the furnace. So how are we going to transform our industry to move away from, to find the best available technology from, like, for example, currently is a blast furnace, blast oxygen furnace, to become more maybe electric arc furnace.
Yes.
But it will require change in the supply chain and also processing.
Okay.
Because you are relying on the scrap metal instead of what we call is a pure iron to produce.
Sun quartz.
To produce the metals.
Okay. So there are many technology actually, Pak, for industrial sector. For energy efficient technology, and then energy management, not only that, but also implement the energy efficient technology in the process, in the utility of the industry, energy efficiency, energy efficient boiler, energy efficient system, chiller, and things like that are some of the key technology. Thank you, Pak Gigi.
Maybe just a quick one. From the industry-wise point of view, we are, as mentioned, that we have a roadmap to produce at least 11 appliances of minimum energy performance standards. And so far we have achieved 5.
It's only 5, yeah.
So far we have refrigerators, air
conditioning, rice cooker,
LED, light, and fans. So this year we are going to add television and what we call showcase.
Another 6.
So that will be produced hopefully probably by local domestic industry.
Okay.
It can meet the minimum efficiency requirement, and then we put label on it.
Yes.
So that's will encourage domestic manufacturing.
So those implementations managing minimum energy performance, yeah, for the household appliances. Okay, thank you very much, Pak Geki. Ladies and gentlemen, I already exceeded time that I promised. It's only 10 to 15 minutes, but now it's already more than 20 minutes. We are in the end of this session. I hope everyone of you still here and then can continue with the other activity. But then I'd like to ask your applause for these three very good speakers. And as a moderator, I'd like to say thank you for your attention, and I'd like to apologize if there's mistake from my side. And then, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bapak Hani, for your excellent moderation in session 2, and to all speakers for session 2. To give a token of appreciation, may I kindly invite to the floor Dr. Nuki Agia Utama, Executive Director from the ASEAN Center for Energy, to present the token. Please, Dr. Nuki. May I ask for a picture showing the token? Yes, thank you very much. Let's give another big round of applause to the speakers and moderators for session 2. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to officially close our workshop for today, may I kindly invite back to the floor Dr. Nuki Agia Utama, Executive Director from the ASEAN Center for Energy, to deliver his respective closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Sania. We had a very interesting and intense discussion. For the first few that perhaps everyone knows, the energy efficiency is a low-hanging fruit activities that may reducing the energy consumption globally. We learn a lot from Japanese case, and we learn a lot from Indonesia and Thailand. We also learn from these industrial sectors how we can proceed on the dealing with the efficiency in those sectors. So I would like to appreciate Dr. Gigi Udiatmo. Thank you very much, sir, for your coming for this very special session. I also would like to thank Dr. Pongpan for ASEAN from Thailand. Thank you, sir, for coming. And also would like to thank all of these ASEAN Energy Efficiency and Conservation, Energy Efficiency, ENC focal points. So together with us, we're combining the focal points from ASEAN member states and colleagues from industrial sectors and also association. Also would like to thank all of the speakers, distinguished moderators. Thank you, Pak Hani, for your kind moderation. Thank you, Pak John Respati, for your kind moderation for the first session. We all know that the energy efficiency is commonly regarded as the world's first fuel. And geopolitical tension resulting in energy price volatilities and also growing concern of climate change. The energy efficiency is regarded as the low-hanging fruit, as I mentioned, to achieve energy transition and sustainable development while promoting economic competitiveness and ambition by the ASEAN economic community. And today's workshop, initiated this morning, is very timely, considering that ASEAN has significant potential to achieve a greater ENC against the tripling of energy demand from 2020 levels by 2050 to reach 1.2 million ton oil equivalent, 1,282 million ton oil equivalent, and is dominated by a fossil fuel. We all know that ASEAN member states is projected to be the fourth largest economy in the world in 2050. And therefore, the energy demand also will increase 3 to 4 folds in that year. So it is very important for us, rather than we are importing all of those energy, better to first that we reduce the consumption first. We also published a report on the ASEAN Energy Outlook last year. In the report also showing that the region not only will be the importers of natural gas in year 2025. 2025 is tomorrow. And then we're going to be also as a net importers of coal in 2039, which is the day after tomorrow. So in the next 20 or 30 years, the region will be imported most or even all of the hydrocarbon, meaning that the cost of energy will be doubled or even tripled. Those are not considering the geopolitical issues. We never know what happened in the next 20 or 30 years. I really hope there is no more wars, but we never know. And the volatilities of the prices is really depending on the geopolitical situation if we rely on hydrocarbon. So again, energy efficiency is the first fuel, the low-hanging fruit that we really need to utilize in terms of reducing our dependency on energy, which is somehow not coming from clean energy sources. We do have a quite interesting discussion on the two sessions. One of the important keys that we discuss over here is when upcoming activities under the Green Climate Fund or GCF. Our colleague already presented these activities. GCF will provide a warranty budget approximately 100 million US dollar. This is the first time in Southeast Asia, I think, in that amount. And then we work together with KDB. So I think it's quite important windows for all industrial sectors to work together to provide a quite straightforward activities to reduce their energy consumption and utilize the potential financial support from KDB. And I think it can be as a showcase Indonesia is one of these very important country in Southeast Asia, and then the energy consumption is really becoming a very frontliner of the whole energy perspective in the region to reduce the energy demand in the future. So by utilizing this GCF fund, I think we can work together and significantly reduce the energy consumption by utilize this available fund. So ladies and gentlemen, and we hope that the information and best practices discussed today can serve as a modality for policymakers or private sectors to replicate and or enhance their energy efficiency and conservation policies and measures, and in turn enhance energy security and accelerated energy transition in the region. I also surprised that digital businesses is also becoming the next best energy demand that we need to concern. More than 110% increases from 2019 to 2021. It was very surprising, Pak Hendro. Thank you for the information. So I don't know whether in the next coming years we're going to have not only commercial sectors, industrial sectors, and residential sectors, but perhaps we can also consider to have these digital sectors, because seems to be that the increases is quite significant, and we all know that in the future all of our activities relying on digitalization. Almost all of part of our lives is rely on this digital. Not to mention the IoT, not to mention the AI that currently happening around the globe. The chat GPT is very advanced right now. You can ask whatever you want. And for sure, those will be the next coming activities that perhaps consuming more energy. So last but not least, I would like to thank all participants present physically here in Tangerang. Thank you. And those joining online for taking the time to join us until this afternoon. And with this, I would like to officially close for this morning session workshop today, and hope to see you again this afternoon and tomorrow, and also on Wednesday, perhaps. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nuki, for your very comprehensive closing remarks for today. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, for your kind information, there will be a document kits link that you may download for this workshop, where you can find all of the presentations that have been presented today. And for your kind information, we will hold another workshop on E&C in the transportation sector at the same venue in Manyar Ballroom 13th floor. It will also be broadcasted in the YouTube platform of Kementerian ASDM. The workshop will begin at 1:30 p.m. Jakarta time. In light of the time delay, we apologize for this for the tardiness. May I kindly repeat, the workshop will begin at 1:30 p.m. Jakarta time in the same venue. We look forward to your participation again in this afternoon session. And for attendees joining us physically here, lunch will be served in the Kakatua room at 11th floor. Praying room will be in P9 floor, and smoking room will be located in the 12th floor. May I kindly repeat, lunch in Kakatua room 11th floor, praying room at P9 floor, smoking room at the 12th floor. And once again, on behalf of the ASEAN Center for Energy, we would like to extend our appreciation for your support and active participation during this workshop. Wishing you all a great and productive morning and experience at the ASEAN Workshop on Tapping the Potential of EE as part of the 27 Energy Efficiency Conservation Subsector Network Associate Meetings. Thank you very much and good afternoon.